Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I am going to be doing my one-take wrap-up for the month of July. So in case you've not seen one of my wrap-ups in the past, basically I just go through what I read in the month and I don't edit the video because I hate editing videos, so I do it in one take. Let's get into it. Okay, in the month of July, I read, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books. I think I finished this one in July. I'm honestly not sure. And then it was a reread, so I'm pretty sure it's just gonna tell me I finished it like 4 years ago, so whoops. Desktop Goodreads is so much different than like the app. Anyway, let's just get into it. First, I finished Supernova by Marissa Meyer. Obviously I adored it. If Marissa Meyer does not write more books in this universe at some point in the hopefully near future, I will lose my mind, because I will give you a synopsis kind of the whole series, not of just Supernova because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is a world where there are superheroes. Think very much X-Men type of vibes, and at first it was just like chaos. Everyone just used their powers for what they wanted, blah blah blah. And then a group of heroes emerged and like made sure that there was laws. They defeated the anarchists, blah blah blah, and they become the renegades and they basically run the world. But there's still like underground anarchists who think that the renegades shouldn't have all the power. And anyway, that's how we find our character Nova, whose power is that she can put people to sleep, and also she never sleeps, which at first I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool, but also incredibly terrifying. And she goes undercover. She's an anarchist. She was raised by anarchists. She goes undercover to work within the renegades, so she can find out ways she can destroy them, and it's just so good. This series, I mean, Marissa Meyer, she does it again. I don't know why I'm surprised that I love them so much, because I love the Lunar Chronicles so much. But the cast of characters is so amazing. Even when there's characters that I'm like so about, they somehow in the end bring it around and I love them. And I want to reread them. They're so good. And they also, for being such long books, and this was the same thing with the Lunar Chronicles, so it's just in Marissa Meyer's writing, like even when they're really long books, they're just so bingeable. Anyway, well, let's move on. 5 out of 5 stars, in case that wasn't obvious. I was coming towards the end of my current cozy mystery series, which I will talk about in a minute, and I was like, well, I need a new one. And this one, I'm not sure if it's my new cozy mystery or not. So last month I read Live and Let Try, and I've read the sequel now, the second one, No Good Tea Goes Unpunished by Bree Baker. I like it, but I don't love it yet. And that's not to say I won't continue the series. I do think I will keep reading. But it's not everything. It's not as, I don't love it as much as my other 2 cozy mystery series that I have finished and adore. So I don't know, I might have to keep looking. I do think it has a lot of potential, and I think the more I get into the series, maybe I'll change my tune and I'll love it a little bit more. But anyway, next, I read all 4 volumes of Heartstopper. I did a reading vlog. I will link it below. It just posted. So I read volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think we all know how I feel about Heartstopper. I love it. I love Nick and Charlie. I love the sister. I love Elle. I love Tao. I love everyone. It's great. It's great. I also just watched season 2 when I'm recording this. I've just watched season 2 of Heartstopper the other night. Ugh, I loved it. I loved it. It's just so good, because how do you not love this cast of characters? They're so honest and truthful, and they just are like this representation of like why you should love living. Does that make sense? Even when life is really, really hard, like obviously Charlie goes through a lot, Nick goes through a lot, but like I just love them. Anyway, Also, they used 7 by Taylor Swift in season 2, which that was rude. So anyway, next, I read The Stand-In by, what is her name? I need to zoom in. Lily Chu. Okay, all the Heartstoppers were 5 stars, obviously. And this was a book I read for as a buddy read, and we haven't met up and discussed it yet because the next time our schedules align is literally September. But I was very, very surprised by this book. I looked at the cover, I read the synopsis, and I was like, I'm not gonna like this. But, you know, it was the one that got, like, randomly selected for us, and I was like, fine, okay, I'll try it. And turns out I loved it. I loved it. I think I gave it a 5 stars. Yes, I did. And this is a really good closed-door romance, if that's something you like. I go back and forth. I love closed-door romances, but I also love open-door romances. But this one follows, and forgive me, I've forgotten everyone's names already. But this follows a girl who is mistaken for a famous Chinese actress by paparazzi. Was it Chinese? I can't remember. Now I'm gonna look. I can't remember if it was Korean or Chinese. I'm pretty sure it was Chinese. Yes, Chinese. I'm not losing my mind. Good. Anyway, she was mistaken for a famous actress, and she's having a generally terrible time. She hates her job. Her boss is horrible, and she is dealing with trying to take care of her mom and pay for her mom's nursing home. Her mom has Alzheimer's. And then this famous Chinese actress approaches her and says, would you pretend to be me at all of my events and functions? She's going to continue doing her actual work. She's in Canada doing a play, but when I'm not working, I want to just be at home and taking a break. I need rest, but I have all these things scheduled. Would you pretend to be me? Which in a concept sounds so ridiculous. It's like that movie on Netflix with Vanessa Hudgens. But turns out I loved it. It was so good. All of the situations that they found themselves in were just hilarious. And then, I mean, she falls in love with, so the Chinese star, the actress, has a best friend. They've been best friends forever. He's also an actor. He's very famous. And that is the person she starts to develop feelings for, our main character, and it was just so good. Their relationship going back and forth, the things that kind of stood in their way, it was just so good. It was so good. And I truly think they could easily make this into a movie, like a very good rom-com. So get on it, Netflix. Anyway, next, as I was saying, Cozy Mysteries, I read the last books in my Vampire Knitting Club series, which if you've watched any of my wrap-ups this year, that has been like my thing. So I read the novella Tangles and Treason, which was like a prequel following Rafe's character, who's the main guy. He's a vampire, following his experience in becoming a vampire, which was really interesting. And then I read the last book in the series, and I mean, she could keep going theoretically. I don't know if she has plans to. I find that cozy authors aren't super like active on social media and everything, so they're not always revealing their plans. Like romance authors tend to be more like open and like post on Instagram. Anyway, Mosaics and Magic, 5 out of 5 stars. Obviously, I loved it. There were like, it wasn't my favorite crime, like of all of the stories that they've told, of all of the mysteries that they've solved, this one was not my favorite. Don't get me wrong, it had me on the edge of my seat and I did not guess the end, but there were other mysteries that I liked more in the previous books. But character wise, so many great things happened, and like the wedding was so cute, and I'm going to miss these characters immensely. Like, it's so weird to me. This was what, the 14th book in the series? It's really weird to me to think that I'm not gonna have another one. I'm not just gonna pick up Anne, Lucy, and Rafe, and all of our vampire friends. And, like, what about some of the other characters? Like, are they, like, the young vampire? Does she ever get that one, the new guy, to go on a date with her? Or, like, I feel like there's a lot more. And what about William? Does he get a happy ending? I don't know. There is a spin-off series, following a different character, and they're not going to be in Oxford. They're going to be in somewhere else I don't remember the name of. And it's going to be I think it's a vampire book club. And let's be real, I'm going to read it. I haven't started it yet, but I will probably read that. And then lastly, on my list of books I read in July, I finished Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I did a reread of this for previously mentioned book club. And then I also just realized I skipped one of the other books, which I'll talk about in a second. I forgot how much I loved Red, White, and Royal Blue. Like, I remember reading it and I remember loving it, but like I didn't really remember what it was about, other than the basis of like Prince of England and first son of the United States, and that was kind of where it ended in my brain. But it was such a good reread. I love these characters. I love their development. I love how like softly their relationship develops. Like, it sneaks up on them. Like, they don't even realize it's happening. At least Alex doesn't realize that it's happening. I think Henry was there the whole time, but I just really loved it. And the conversations it forces them to have are just so good. I love it, and I'm very excited for the movie. I'm very hesitant about the movie. Like, I'm hesitant and excited. I'm going to try and go in with very low expectations. Based on the trailers, it looks really great, but I don't think we're gonna get like a Heartstopper level of accuracy. Like, I think it's going to be, you know, liberal with the changes from the book, but I think it looks like they have the heart of the book there. They have the heart and soul of the characters. There are characters, I think, in the movie that aren't, or like they've deleted some of the book characters in the movie is what I understand, which confuses me. Like, I just never understood that. Like, I think they're getting rid of Alex's sister, which if we were gonna get rid of someone, why wouldn't we get rid of Henry's sister? Like, what the hell does she do in that book? Nothing. I mean, she has like her one backstory thing, but what do I care? Anyway, I'd rather have June, but I haven't seen the movie yet, obviously, so I don't know if that's true or exactly what's going on. And I'm so excited to watch it. But yeah, I loved this reread. It was fantastic. And part of me is like, well, I should read more of Casey McQuiston's books. I love this one so much. But so far, the synopses of the other ones have really not interested me, so I don't know. The one that's got like the time travel aspect, you lost me. And then I actually don't know what the other one's about. So anyway, I skipped over because I was talking about Heartstopper. I also read Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard earlier on in the month. I mean, I loved it, 5 stars, but, and the only thing I will say, the ending is quite rushed in this one, but now right now I'm reading the third one. I'm kind of understanding why it was rushed, because we are returning and going back over it in her head. But this book was painful, to say the least. Like, I don't understand how Victoria Aveyard comes up with this stuff. Like, her poor characters, they're just tortured over and over and over again. There are parts that I loved. There are parts that were horrifying to read. It's always wild to me, like, as I'm a little bit older, but I still love my like YA fantasy, dystopian type stories like this, of like, how did these get away as YA? And I know the answer is because women write them, so automatically they slot them into YA, but like these stories are so much more mature than I think the general public will ever realize. And it's not just, yes, the characters are young, and yes, there are going to be aspects of the story that are like a finding yourself story, and there's going to be like what the author, you know, wants to write, or what the author thinks the audience will like a love triangle is what I'm getting at there. Like, we're always going to have that sort of aspect to the story, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty of this world, it's horrifying, and it is beyond what I think the general public would acknowledge as YA, and I think it's better than like a lot of the adult content that is out there. I like, the one that always comes to my mind is Game of Thrones. I never even really watched Game of Thrones, but like, if we're looking at storytelling abilities, I'm going to choose a YA fantasy dystopian author over Game of Thrones, because they are going to give me a story that is exciting, intricate, satisfying, and the thing with YA is it's always going to have a little bit of hope, whereas I think a lot of adult content like Game of Thrones, I can't think of any other examples, maybe The Witcher, but again, I haven't seen that at all. Any like adult fantasy content that relies much more heavily on, and this is such a sidetrack, I told you this is a one take, this is such a sidetrack, but all of the adult content relies so heavily on violence, sex, like just all horrible things, and sometimes, you know, misogynistic writing because it's men writing the adult content, that it's just not as satisfying to consume, whereas like The Hunger Games is arguably one of the best pieces of literature produced in my generation, and I stand by that. So anyway, that was a tangent, but I'm not sorry, because it gets my point across. I really like The Glass Sword, and I do think there are aspects of Victoria Aveyard's writing that could be improved upon, or like just aren't exactly my style. She can be a little bit repetitive, but I take all of this kind of with a grain of salt, because these books are a little bit on the older side, and I believe this was her first series, and I know she started writing this really young, but also, who cares? It's all just writing. It all just, you know, the story is amazing. If there's little bits and details that I'm like, I didn't like that as much, whatever. Also, so I'm on the third one, and I will be finishing the series within the next couple of months. If Cal and Mare are not like together and happy by the end, I'll riot. Anyway, this was a really long one-take wrap-up, wasn't it? But I read a good amount of books. I had a lot of fun. All these books were ones I really loved. I really felt like I was in a reading mood. I only did one audiobook, or I guess 2 audiobooks. 3 if you count the novella. This month. I haven't been as much in an audiobook mood as I've been in like a more ebook, regular book mood. So anyway, that's my update. I hope you enjoyed. I upload videos whenever I get around to uploading videos. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Bye. I totally messed up that last part. Bye.